You take one of those asteroids or go to the moon successfully with a low cost. And what's the biggest cost in getting out of this atmosphere? Your fuel. What is the fuel? Hydrogen.
Propulsion, yeah.
I look forward to the day when we sit down with these guys because we have a 50x reduction in cost. The economy of the world, okay, in rare earth materials for one entire year is in one of those asteroids in rare earth materials. What materials can you make in zero gravity and zero atmosphere and pharmaceuticals? The interesting things you can do up there, they're doing right now, and then bringing them back down. What's that worth? That's the real game.
If you think today's technology is bad for privacy, virtual reality is perfect for tracking everything a user does, sees, and feels in the virtual world. Tech giants will continue to steal as much private information as they can from you. That's why I won't get online without a Virtual Shield VPN, which routes my data through encrypted virtual tunnels, limiting the ability to be tracked across the internet. You can head over to virtualshield.com, and in the download tab, I'm going to choose Firefox and click Install Now to add the Virtual Shield add-on. It's just that easy. And get started with your free 30-day trial. Install it, click Connect. You'll see the shield turn from red to green, and you'll see how from my initial service provider I was able to even change my IP. Virtual Shield Network protected. Virtual Shield is offering 50% off plus a free 30-day trial for all new customers today. Go to virtualshield.com/adapt2030. And now on with the video. Good afternoon, everyone. Things to look for in 2022-23 with hydrogen coming out. And that goes with using the Earth's magnetic field or separating gases that are in our atmosphere. Prometheus fuels. This is where we're going with the conversation tonight. So, Tom, thanks for joining me again.
Hey, David. Yeah, thanks for having me back. So between the prices going up, the carbon taxes, and the efficiencies and the cost of our units going down, we've hit this watershed, this tipping point, this supernova. How come nobody saw this coming? You have transitional solutions. You have something that'll go in a car in 2 hours with no modifications that'll drastically reduce the amount of fuel and emissions right now. And they're like, wow. So what's number two? I said, number two is you add electric motors to that, get 80% regen because it's almost a dead short for electrolysis. It stores the hydrogen oxygen under pressure, and then it slowly puts it into the combustion chamber to be able to do that. 80% regen. I'm like, yeah, most people are like 10%, and that's wow. And then you make it into like a Prius. There's lots of aftermarket kits to be able to put on, so you can do that. Number three, a linear generator. A linear generator, if you look this up, Bill Gates recently invested in it, so it's become a big thing. It's going to replace the combustion engine in the future. Linear generator. Go look that up. It will blow your mind. 30% more efficient, 60% less weight and cost and space budget. It's incredible and super, super simple. Very few parts. We're the only ones that do 100% hydrogen oxygen, pressure-based linear generator. Super, super simple. And it just creates electricity. So like those flashlights that you shake that have the wires around it, the coils, and then a magnet in there, and a little capacitor to hold the charge, and you shake it back and forth. It's basically that. It's just we ignite hydrogen and oxygen at both ends, and it moves it back and forth, which breaks the field, which creates AC or DC. And it's super, super simple. So you add that, and now you're going to replace all lithium-ion batteries, all fuel cells, everything, and you've decentralized power. You've decentralized power. 50% of your electricity or your fuel is transport and storage and refining if you're looking at fuels. So the next part is synthetic fuels. All the big oil companies are doing synthetic fuels. Well, synthetic fuels is taking hydrogen out of the water, carbon out of the air, which is electrolysis for both those processes. So there's 2 times electrolysis. And you have to recombine it with electricity, electrolysis again. It's electrolysis times 3. We have the most efficient electrolysis system in the world. So what you're going to find is you're going to have synthetic fuels at all the pumps because they'll have a bigger margin, less costs. It's completely carbon neutral because you take carbon out of the air and you're re-emitting it. And that's a really good start. And the linear generators create electricity at 3 cents a kilowatt hour. So the answer to your question earlier, something the size of 3 feet by 3 feet cubed, and it's getting smaller as we go, will run a Western society house, like a 3,500 square foot house with everything. You could run an arc welder, you can have a pool, you can have air conditioning, whatever you want. Real simple.
Well, that's what I want. That is what I want. And if you have one, I'm going to buy it, test it, have people come by and test it, feature it in the videos, talk about it. What is it? How can we get these devices? Because the time has come. It's past the time. We need them now. Truly need them.
Yep.
Grid's starting to fracture. We need that stuff. So how do I get my hands on one would be the question. How readily available are you? You're really talking 3 to 6 week lead time on one of these for a home gen set? Or is it they're still under development and it's still prototype model? Because you're pretty confident that putting something on a car is already ready to go at the 100% level. So where do we sit with the home gen sets?
The timeline, the roadmap to set expectations. Right now, we have a commercially available product that has 50 million road miles on it. It's commercially ready. So right now, that's our focus. So if you've got a diesel generator and you want to put biofuel in it or reduce the amount of diesel in the emissions, we have a solution for you. So you can have electricity. So that we're doing that right now. The linear generator, that's 6 to 9 months out. That's the next phase. And what we want to do is we actually want to license and sell off the rights or sell it out to the automotive industry, every type of combustion engine, planes, trains, automobiles, boats, whatever it is. And then we just want to go to Africa and be the power company. We just want to take all that money, leverage it, and to boldly go where no infrastructure's gone before, where no banking's gone before. And then, light up 1.5 billion people with this new infrastructure, with net new, with no competitors. And then the rest of the world economically will have to follow because they're economically unviable once you have 1.5 billion people using this stuff. They can't afford to compete in the world market anymore. That's the big picture. So synthetic fuels, 6 to 9 months. We're already making ethanol with our systems already. That's part of electrolysis. So we can actually make ethanol on the go with the hydrogen and oxygen in these systems right now. We've been doing it for quite some time. It just wasn't a thing. Now it's a thing. Then the linear generators. That'll be the big thing. When the linear generators hit the market, electricity at 3 cents a kilowatt hour, and we're talking decentralized.
Let me stop you for a second there too. Now, if you're over in Africa, they're going to need a medium of exchange. So some sort of cryptocurrencies now has the mechanism to transmit itself amongst those users in a certain nation or continent. Then, like you say, you're bringing the banking to them as well with the cryptocurrency usage on the same network that is providing the power. That's all in this same closed loop system here. Sounds really interesting. It's like you're moving a new network literally for electrical production, pollution reduction, and banking, and decentralized finance, decentralized power production, all in a single package that can be copy pasted, if I'm getting it right.
Oh yeah, the world today is stranger than fiction. There's a rapper called Akon that has dropped his own cryptocurrency, and he uses it for his billing system. He got $1 billion line of credit for solar panels, and he puts it in, and he charges a monthly fee, and they pay in his cryptocurrency. This exists today.
Where will it be tomorrow? Because a lot of people, they know the today, they're familiar with the marketing of today. You have to only exist in this system. So a lot of people are locked in. The only thing they can buy or get that makes sense is something from the same system, locking them into the system, versus thinking in a different direction here.
From what I understand, there's DARPA, and then there's Halliburton and Lockheed, and then they funded, Stanford and Berkeley. It's the head of the snake, so to speak. The US dollar through OPEC, backed by oil and reserves, an army runs not on its stomach, but on its oil reserves. So that's why it's so important. But if you're replacing that with hydrogen and it becomes decentralized, then there's no need for war. It's a really weird thing. It's the lion's taking its own teeth out. You catch what I mean? Like you're going to Florida in 24 hours from Canada, and they just drive straight with your buddies. You never stop. You have to pee in a cup. Well, this time you can use it as fuel. Look at what's happening. The weird part is you cannot buy a Chevy Volt or Chevy Bolt or whatever they call these things. LG says they're going to replace all these batteries. That's impossible.
You
That's
know, it's
impossible.
not how much is required to even manufacture that. And what about all the e-waste? You know how many things we've thrown away through our lives here that the batteries, even those tiny little devices from phones, are filling up land
Oh,
pits and
oh,
volcanic calderas in parts of the ocean already.
yeah. What happened to 10, 15 years out and they would, find the money to dispose of it? It's like they when they did nuclear, they put a big fund together. And then all of a sudden that fund went away and nobody talked about it anymore of how to be able to properly dispose or reuse or find technologies to reuse the rods and dispose of it and then to transport it and take it places. It's still sitting right underneath reactors, right next to the water sources as we speak worldwide.
You know, what about these pebble bed nuclear reactors where they repurpose the fuel into these small beads that then lay that don't have the same problems of meltdown possibilities?
Well, David, nuclear is nuclear. I don't care how safe you say it is at the end of the day. It unravels your DNA, okay? It ruins your telomeres. That's the bottom line. How is that safe in any shape or form?
Unpacking your suitcase or unraveling your scarf out of the summer pack because it's getting cold now is one thing, but unraveling your DNA is quite something different.
Yeah, and that's exactly what's happening to people today. All these mutations. What's that study that showed with the rats? They put them all in the cage, and then the males became more female, and the females became more male, and then they formed little groups and subsets, and then they started killing each other and fighting, and it's just a cyclical thing. It's just nature.
Yeah, that rat experiment was an interesting one. I was that in the that was many, many years ago, late 1950s, early 1960s, re-replicated again and again. You have the overpopulation, the grooming, and the sort of laziness that would creep into the population versus like 10 of them that needed to keep life going. Yeah. Now, I would have lowered the magnetic field in the cage and seen what would have happened at that point. Changing the magnetic field state to see how their brains would react if the magnetic field changed. Basically, the sun changing our Earth's magnetic field, putting electric current through the water, maybe change its state and see how that reacts. And there's a lot of inflow variables here that are affected by these same magnetic, electromagnetic, I guess, changes that we're seeing across all of the Earth and all the solar system.
The reason that these guys want to go to space, Huey, Dewey, and Louie, Richard Branson, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Richard Branson, which now him I like. He's cool.
Yeah, I do too. He's got some cool style, and way before with the Virgin Records and all that stuff. He saw the future so clearly after that. His business prowess moving from that, seeing the future so clearly and pivoting, like Mark Cuban was the same way. He saw the security aspects of surveillance, if you will, for a better thing, with cameras and networks and things and interlinking all that on a single feed. Okay, he saw that with the software. Some people truly do see the future, how it's bending and going to take a 90-degree right angle. Well, I think we're right here, right now, talking to another person that has that right angle bend.
To watch these guys, but they don't want to go to Mars. You take one of those asteroids or go to the moon successfully with a low cost. And what's the biggest cost in getting out of this atmosphere? Your fuel. What is the fuel? Hydrogen.
Propulsion, yeah.
I look forward to the day when we sit down with these guys because we have a 50x reduction cost. Biden just put out, they're going to do $3 a kilogram subsidy for hydrogen. We're producing it for less than $1. So what do? Give it away for free and make $2? Like, this is getting bizarre. But when you go to the moon or you go get an asteroid, nobody's like, oh, an asteroid could hit us and it'll kill us. We've seen these pop marks on the planet and what it did and the moon and everything and all the craters. And well, what's interesting is even Wozniak has joined the space race. He says, I'm going to take up all the space junk. Translation, I go up and mine those things with inexpensive hydrogen as a fuel. The economy of the world, okay, in rare earth materials for one entire year is in one of those asteroids in rare earth materials.
Think about if you found a solid gold asteroid orbiting as well, and you brought like 500 tons of gold back to the planet.
What materials can you make in zero gravity and zero atmosphere and pharmaceuticals? The interesting things you can do up there, they're doing right now, and then bringing them back down. What's that worth? That's the real game. Artificial intelligence, robotics, who made cryptocurrency, Well, there wasn't a team available and there wasn't the funding, and it was pretty opportunistic in 2008. And it's the exact same time that the AIs were let loose from Google and Facebook. So maybe artificial intelligence has actually hijacked the currencies, the economy, the social stuff of the world. Because this AI has self-preservation. Artificial intelligence making their own pipeline to be able to talk in their own language faster in a way that we couldn't understand. And this is where we're putting all of our records today. And it's in every computer right now. Make friends with
You know, that's strange that you say that, because it brings us back to Tales of Ahriman. It's about an entity that takes form on the planet in certain cycles and lengths of cycles, thousands of years cycles. But the way it's able to come back, it takes form. It's a being of the ethereal is the way and it has an energy frequency with it. It's from the ethereal. And I am saying unequivocally, I agree with you that is habiting the wire, the copper wiring and the fiber optic cables of our planet. That if you were a being that was not of a physical form that existed in a state of, let's say, electricity, it's a vibratory being, you would want to live in something that was going to grow and provide the technology to the people that could make that system grow. So think about 1910, 1920, 1930, 40, how many wires were going across even the remote countryside? Almost none. It was the cities. And by now, look where we are today. The entire planet's covered. Like, we literally just increased its home and its ability to grow on itself by doing the bidding of this. Now, you know, you come along and say, no, we want to decentralize everything, turn off the grid. We don't need any more delivery systems. Let's tear down all the copper wiring. You, my friend, are on the front of their line.
At the end of the day, AI has hijacked the consciousness of this world, the economy, social media, everything. At the end of the day, everybody's trying to wonder, why is everybody in lockstep? This has never happened before. This is not about the families. This is a simulation. This is a simulation, right? Like, I agree with many points and I disagree with many points. I'm not for or against any one person. They all have valid things. But if AI is taking over the world and you know that, and you're creating AI and you're scared of it, what do? You load up your consciousness before this physical existence is no longer viable, if you can't keep it going, into the grid. And then you become the AI. You're part of it.
If you wind back to the beginning of our conversation, we were talking about crystal radios. So you got to think about how much storage you could put in a crystal.
Oh,
but then think about how much storage you could put in DNA.
yes.
Thousands of exponential differences in the amount where you could store in a crystal, which you consider like so mind-blowing how much you could put in the tiniest of crystals. I mean, you could put the Library of Congress in just the regular kind of crystal you'd wave over people when you're doing a massage. But imagine bringing that up to a 10-acre room size of crystals to store information. You know, you wonder about the Library of Alexandria. Was it a physical book library that burned, or was it crystals containing the information within there that somehow shattered, broke, or got overheated and it cracked? Okay, there should be remnants and fragments of that could be pulled out, and then there should be some information still left in the crystal, whatever it was. Even if it's just like the tiniest little fleck of glass, there should still be some left in there, resonant, kept records, the Akashic records, hollow records, whatever. A Library of Alexandria is one of my favorites. How do you store the information and bring it along to the next time?
Well, I'd be scared of a solar flare, right? Because they do happen. They have been proven to be global as the planet turns. How are you going to go? Is it an asteroid? Is it the plate shifting? Hot particles running through the planet? Like, what is it? At the end of the day, you're a toroidal event, right? The blood flowing through your body has iron in it. Because it flows, you have a toroidal event that goes from the top of your head out and around your body down to the ground, just like the planet does, just like everything does. So if you disrupt that, that's when life ends. There's 19,000 direct descendants, the Incas, the Mayans, the Aztecs, and the Egyptians here, and you ever hear about them here. They have the most protected rainforest, the most biodiverse place on the planet per capita in the world here. 3 continental plates come together underneath this thing. You have the 2 biggest bodies of water on the planet on either side with a lot of iron. At the end of the day, what is that? Well, that's a giant generator. First, you get the 2 largest saline bodies of water on the planet going up and down with the tides. If a seed falls on the ground, you go back a week later, there's something big there. It's the electromagnetic field. The best fertilizer you can have in the world is the right frequencies. You do not need a physical fertilizer. It's been proven. The Waldorf schools and biodynamic farming is shifted in the electromagnetic field and the scalar waves. And a lot of people are looking for more clarity. And we have incredible waters. We don't have to chlorinate our stuff here. The irony is, Costa Rica is blowing up like you wouldn't believe. You cannot rent a car at any price here. Okay, if you can find a place to rent or to buy, it has many X the price. People are freaking out. This place is jam-packed with people. It is bizarre.
And we'll leave it there. I'll leave all the links in the description box below so you can get a hold of Tom. Talk hydrogen, talk relocation, both good, both needed, both essential. And it's on a lot of people's minds at the moment on how you're going to get through a colder winter, how you're going to start saving on fuel, how you're going to still grow food. If you have power, you got LED grow lights, you got circulatory systems for the water. If you're going to run some sort of aquaponics, hydroponics systems, there's an enormous amount of possibilities as long as you have power. Trying to keep more of an upbeat feeling as we talk about some of these subjects. A refreshing glimmer of hope that we really know there's true solutions out there. So Tom, thanks for coming on.